Hi, everyone. In episode number 13 of our podcast, Second Innings, we had a great conversation with Uma Kasoji and Rahul Nagar. This particular bonus episode is full of some reflections and a lot of learnings from our chat with both of them.
So let me start with where they started, which was the when we were asking them about describe your childhood. I think one thing came out very clearly that uh, very highly influenced with with the childhood, and that's basically about connecting the dots. Uma mentioned that her father was in construction, and he would take her to see these properties that had come up, right? So she was quite intrigued with creating something out of nothing, right? From a vacant piece of land to creating to seeing a full building. So this thing of creating something always stayed with her, and that probably kind of helped her take that jump going forward.
Yeah, that's what happens, Suman. We're noticing that with a lot of the people we're talking to, that when you look back, you're able to kind of connect the dots of what influences you in your upbringing. It was importance of that role model of her father that gave her the seed in her life of wanting to bring something to life from scratch, create something in her life. So all of us can look back on our origin years and see who are the role models we've kind of grown up with.
The other thing which I found was quite engrossing was this quote. She said, sometimes not getting what you want can actually help you." I think that was the Dalai Lama quote. And she related it to how, she wanted to do medicine, but at found one point she just dropped it. She
Hmm.
studied for her CAT, she got into IM, then she met her husband, and then, her life took a very different trajectory.
What you're mentioning earlier, it brings out a lot of resilience in you, right? Rather than simply going as per plan, but trying to find pivots in your life, that if you don't get what you want, you make the most of that situation and go in a different direction and find something which actually is even better than what you were hoping. The other one, that the quote that she threw at us there, I forget the lady's name, Susie something she mentioned, and which said, fear kills more dreams than failure ever will. And that really relates itself very nicely to what Uma was saying, that it's very important to take the shots in life. That she found that she would regret the shots that she didn't take far more than the ones that she took and went wrong. And that's something that happens in all our lives, and that the fear of that is something we all get sometimes mired in. Relating again to what we've been talking in the last 2 3 episodes about, the why not approach to life rather than the why.
I thought that quote was extremely powerful. Uh, of course, fear is an extremely powerful emotion. It kind of can grip
Hmm.
people. But I think it's also saying something that if fear kills more dreams than failure ever will, it's also kind of sending a message. You don't have to think of it as every time is not going to be failure. A lot of people succeed as well. In fact,
Hmm.
you know what, Atul, this morning I was watching something else completely unrelated. And Jeff Bezos was in a panel discussion. Somebody asked him a question. He said, I think we tend to underestimate uh, the outcome and overestimate the risk. And I
Hmm.
was also reflecting on that. I said, is it because he's already successful that can he make a comment like
Yeah.
that?
For a moment, and it's an interesting filter to use. Yeah, the why not and why thing. I wonder if the why approach tends to dwell on the risks more, whereas the why not approach. But I think the why not approach tends to be a little more outcome oriented. Yeah, let's just give it a shot. Why not? You're focusing more on the fact that I'll be successful rather than on the chances that I will not be successful.
The one which I found really fascinating was this thing about the visiting card. She said she went to pick up a visiting card, and she always had big names on them, large organizations, and suddenly struck her that her name was bigger than the organization, from the card. Nobody would have heard of that organization. Then she said, that's when I realized I need a personal brand. I need to create a
Hmm.
personal brand.
Hmm.
And what I find fascinating is some of these things, are always happening in front of us. Uh, but the penny doesn't drop. It's only
Hmm.
sometimes the penny drops, and something very obvious, but it hits you, right?
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
in fact, she mentioned another incident where she said, I always used to think that if I do my work, people will notice me. And then at some point, I realized that the world doesn't work that way. That's another penny drop moment. And I've always wondered, what is it that makes penny drop for people, especially because when I'm doing, uh, you know, facilitation, when I'm doing workshops, I
Mm.
wonder, same thing everybody is hearing. Why is it that a penny drops for some people and it doesn't for someone else?
I think going back to her moment about that visiting card, the way she told that story was just beautiful. I remember listening to her and just visualizing in my head her at the printer picking up that card. It must have been a moment of pride for her as well, because that was the first time it was her own brand. And
Exactly.
suddenly, somewhere in her head, that, like you said, the penny dropped. And
Mm.
very often you just miss the wood for the trees on a day-to-day basis. You don't really see the world for what it is because you're just so busy. But suddenly the world becomes clear. You can see nothing else except that little moment, and that's what you're calling the penny drop moment. Is absolutely amazing. The last bit in the episode that kept coming up as a matter of conversation, and it was very interesting and beautiful that it actually came up with both of them, Uma as well as with Rahul, that they really valued the people around them, their spouses, of course, but other people close to them, friends, family, um, and their support. They repeated multiple times in the episode, and I think you and I have had that experience in our lives as well. That the kind of pressures and that we go through, I think, both in emotional terms as well as physical, financial, all in all terms, it's very important to have the support of the people around you. And that's something that I think anybody who wants to go on this journey needs to realize, that garnering the support of people around you is very important.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And sometimes I think when people are stepping into it, they don't realize. It's only later then you realize how important that support is, from near and dear ones.
It was a really good conversation. Both Uma and Rahul were very open in terms of sharing stories as well as their experiences, and our thanks to them, of course.
Totally, totally. Okay, so to our audience, keep watching for more. I mean, there's a lot of learnings we're getting, and do go and watch the full episode. This was episode 13 with Rahul Nagar and Uma Kasoji.